What's up guys, Matt here from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. So today I'm going to be doing a review and test ride on the new 2020 CVO Tri-Glide. So definitely a bike that I don't think anyone was really expecting, but it's here, and if you're into trikes, it's a damn cool bike. So we're going to take it out, do a test ride on it, and I've also got a 2020 freewheeler, which is a stripped down version of the Tri-Glide, no tour pack, no fairing, no radio. And I've also got an older model back there, the 2014 Tri-Glide. So it's the first year of the Rushmore project. So I'm going to be kind of doing some comparing and contrasting between the three models and kind of telling you guys everything that comes with the CVO package and what you can expect to get for your, what is it, $48,000. Definitely the most expensive bike that Harley-Davidson has ever produced. So let's get into it, and I'm going to be taking the bikes out with Andrew and talking about what I think.
All right, so let's jump into a walk around on this 2020 CVO Tri-Glide. There are two colors that Harley-Davidson offers this year. This first one is the Blizzard White Pearl with the Lightning Silver and Storm Cloud, and that refers to the striping on the bike. I really like the paint, by the way. I feel like this paint scheme, both of the paint schemes, are going to really appeal to a large audience. So let's go to the front of the bike here. So they have the reflective LED daymakers on here. I usually refer to them as the Softail daymakers just because they came out with the 18 model year Softails when they reintroduced the new frame and the lineup. So the wheels on this are kind of one of those features that are really going to stand out a lot. The wheels on this bike are absolutely beautiful. This is a contrast cut tomahawk wheels, what they call it, which for those of you who know and are familiar with the Limited, those also have tomahawk wheels on there. And notice like the calipers and the front forks, really nice finishes, all chrome and everything. So here's a shot of the Milwaukee 8 117 cubic inch engine. This is a twin cooled engine, by the way, which as a side note, the freewheeler does not come with a twin cooled engine. The twin cooled engine, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, pipe cooled liquid through the hottest part of the engine, which is like the heads around the exhaust ports and whatnot. Here's a shot of the badging, really clean, nice, newly designed CVO badging for this bike. This is the first year Harley-Davidson has ever applied their premium CVO package to a trike. And you've got the Kahuna collection on here as well for your foot and hand controls and little highlights throughout the bike. So the Kahuna collection was brand new last year, I believe. Was there 19 or 18? I believe it was last year. You can see here the blazing orange lower rocker box cover highlights there as well, which is kind of a nice styling characteristic that they started doing in the 2018 model year. Here's a shot of the seat here. So you got this perforated leather tuck and roll style stitching, which again, lots of detail in these. Nothing but the best for the CVO. You've even got kind of a mixture of the different leather surfaces, both plain leather and the perforated leather. And it's a heated seat, by the way, too. So you've got controls on the left side, and it is independent heating zones, both for the rider and passenger. And it's also dual intensity, so you can put it on low mode or high mode. I'd like to try that. I've never actually been in really cold weather where I had a heated seat and I was able to use it. Heated grips, however, I have, and the heated grips in cold weather are an absolute lifesaver. It's not a gimmick at all. Like, they really help out a lot in the cold weather. So here's a trunk. You have a King Tour Pack, same shape as you're going to find like on your Limited, your Road Glide, and your Ultra Limited. So MSRP on this bike, $48,999. This is the most expensive bike that Harley's ever come out with. And there's a $200 California emission, and freight on this bike is $856. By the way, guys, shameless plug, at Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, we have absolutely no dealer markup on CVOs. Any bike, we never mark up our bikes. This here is a garage door opener. This is the 30K headset, the Boom Audio headset. You get one headset, by the way. These here are the highway pegs. You do get highway pegs, the chrome highway pegs with the bike, and that's an air cleaner cover. And then you got some leather dressing for your seat there as well. Yeah, you also got the soft inner liner that lines the tour pack as well. And you also have these bags as well, the bag that basically can be pulled out of your tour pack. You've also got the 12 volt outlet in here as well, which has been pretty standard for a while now. You've got this like smoked light bar on the back of the tour pack there as well. Here's a shot of the rear trunk. The spacing and everything is all the same as it's always been. Plenty of cargo room in the rear trunk here. And you've got, some bags in here. This is the CVO cover for the trike, which is kind of a nice item to have. So you get the CVO cover with the Tri-Glide. And you've also got a liner on the inside as well, which is pretty typical for the Trike. That's not a CVO upgrade. However, the pouch organizer here on the back of the door, that is kind of an extra for the CVO Tri-Glide. So I didn't even know about this until this day when I was filming. So kind of a lot of little things that you don't really notice until you start getting into it and checking it out. Even for myself, I learned a couple things when I was filming this video. You got the cool CVO insignia on the back of the door there on the trunk as well. Basically display displays that, yep, this is the real deal. This is a CVO here. And you've got 2 antennas on the back of the trunk there, or on the back of the tour pack. So you do have CB radio on this. So it's AM, FM for one of the antennas and CB radio for the other antenna. Here's a nice shot of the rear wheel, the Tomahawk contrast wheels. You got this kind of correlating hubcap there too. I don't know if it's called a hubcap, but it's like that, the hub there that, you know, kind of has that outline of the bar and shield, and then just the finish is super nice. You got those 90-degree elbows on the air valve, fill up your tires. I get a lot of people complaining on the regular touring bikes. They're trying to fill up their air, kind of a tight squeeze on the regular bikes. So you've got obviously Screaming Eagle mufflers on here with all chromed out with the Kahuna collection style outline of the bar and shield insignia on there. Then of course things like your passenger floorboards are the adjustable ones, where you can actually adjust that arm up and down to kind of reposition your rider's foot position depending on their height. And sometimes it's kind of nice if you're on a long ride to give them the option of moving their feet around a little bit. Proudly displaying the 117 cubic inch on the derby cover there. In case anybody forgets, you've got the 117 cubic inch insignia there. This is the parking brake, not to be confused with an emergency brake, but yeah, usually when I park these things I throw it in first, and I throw the parking brake down as well, just to kind of have 2 levels of, I guess, self-assurity that this thing's not going to roll on me. The left side of the engine here, the horn cover, you can see there the lower rocker box covers in that blaze orange, matching bar and shield insignia on the top of the horn cover there. The closer shot of the paint graphics. The paint styling is spot on these bikes. It's funny, every year for a long time on the CVOs, there's always kind of like 1 or 2 colors that shines, and there's usually like a 3rd color that, you know, people very rarely wanted. It took a special someone to like that color. I feel like both these colors so far this model year, we've had people asking about them equally, which is always kind of a good sign that there's not, you know, one color that isn't going to sell. Both these colors I think are really appealing. So here's a shot, inside shot of the gauges and everything. They're real sporty looking. You got kind of these protruding bezels that pop out there with a hooded design to them. Titanium backed gauges, I believe, real sporty looking gauges. There's a fork lock. Bars need to be turned all the way to the left, of course. You flip that top flap off and it exposes the locking mechanism there. So you've got 2 lines of defense basically on this bike. The electronic cut on the ignition and also the fork lock. The fork lock does not double as the ignition, by the way. This is all keyless, so you hit the run switch and that's what activates the ignition on this bike. If you want to just do the accessory mode only, you'll hold down this trigger switch. There's your grip, by the way, Kahuna collection grips, and the grips are heated, by the way. So we're going to turn the bike into accessory mode. I'll show you the screen just for a second here. So this is the new Boom Audio 6.5 GTS system, not to be mistaken with the GT system that ran from the 2014 model year to the 2018 model year. So the new system has a higher resolution. It's a lot faster processor, so going from different modes, just everything's a lot quicker and snappier. That button here is for the auxiliary lamps. I'm going to give you a shot of the front of the bike in a second. I'm going to switch the ignition on now so that the lights will actually turn on. In accessory mode, the lights do not turn on. So we got the front of the bike here, so daymakers there, reflector daymakers. This is actually the lighting that I have on my personal bike. Pretty dang happy with it. You've also got on like the Street Glide, CVO Street Glide Unlimited, you've got those adaptive daymakers that are projector daymaker. I slightly prefer those, to be honest, but I think they went with this because of the passing lamps. I don't know, maybe they want to just kind of give it a different look than the rest of the CVOs. Here's a shot of that screen again, and I'm gonna flick off the ignition. I'm going to turn the accessory mode back on. So you've got AM, FM, weather band as well. Note you do not have XM radio on this anymore. So that's kind of a question I get asked a lot in the comments. These new 2020s, you do not have XM radio. You can get that module. I want to say it's $300 or $400 to get the module. Here's your menu for your intercom, your CB. So you do have CB radio on here, like I mentioned. Intercom, you'll need to buy the passenger headset to utilize the intercom. The intercom is just a rider to passenger communication. And here's your map. Notice as I'm flipping through everything, this is all real time, guys. Like flipping from your communication to your GPS, everything's real quick and really snappy. Definitely industry leading, definitely faster than the regular GT system. Here's a close-up shot of all the gauges here. So you got your volts, RPM, your gas, and your miles per hour on there. The rest of the information is going to be all in the system. And one touch access to your gas tank. You got a 6-gallon fuel tank. And of course, one of the new features this year for the 2020 model year is the RDRS. You can see that TC for traction control above the horn button there. Here's your cruise control. Nothing new there really since the 2014 model year. That's always kind of been there. And high beam, low beam, and you've got your voice command button there. Voice command is very underutilized, guys. If you get one of these bikes, or even if you get just any touring bike that has this unit in it, I recommend getting the headset and utilizing it. It's pretty dang cool and can come in handy. And this right here, it doubles as your starter button and your reverse button as well. I'll demonstrate the reverse in just a minute, but yeah, this bike does have a separate electric reverse gear on it, so it comes in handy when you park downhill. This is a heavy bike. This bike weighs it's right around 1,100 pounds, I want to say. And here's a shot of the mirrors. Again, you got chrome switch housings, you know, everything on here, the brake master cylinder, the switch housings, everything's all chromed out. Chrome mirrors. Here's your heated grip. You can adjust the intensity level, of course, which is kind of nice because there's a big difference between, you know, being 42 degrees outside and 32 degrees outside. So everything from the center console, those of you who aren't real familiar with the CVO treatment, there's a lot of things I'm leaving out. Just, you know, everything from the finishes on the crankcase, the casings on here, it's like this special, like almost like a gunmetal gray on the case of the CVO. Every little detail on this bike has been upgraded from its counterpart, just a regular Tri-Glide. So that pretty much sums up the bike and the first color. So I have the second color as well, so I'm going to show you guys some quick shots of that. This one is called Black Stardust with magnetic gray and wicked red. So the magnetic gray and wicked red are obviously in the stripes, and that base color is the Black Stardust. And this is probably my favorite of the two colors, although I definitely am partial to white bikes. So I really like them both. I don't know, I'd have a hard time choosing, but yeah, I really like this color scheme as well. So yeah, pretty much the same features and everything, even down to the detail on the engine, the same highlights and everything. But yeah, definitely a beautiful bike. You have the cushions as well on this bike, so on the backrest and on the rider seat you have kind of this additional pad that we've also seen on the Limited as well. But yeah, one thing I kind of left off. So let's move over to a 2014 Tri-Glide real quick, and I'll just kind of point out some differences. So 2014 Tri-Glide, you had the twin cam, so this was a 103, so definitely not underpowered by any stretch of the imagination. But after riding a CVO, if I rode the CVO then got on this thing kind of felt a little bit doggish. But you know, I rode these back in the 2014 and felt like they had plenty of power. It's just funny how you get acclimated to more and more power, and then anything below that just seems, you know, really slow. But you know, if you just look at the details on the wheels and things like that, definitely not the finish and the level of, you know, detail and quality that you see in the CVO. The same dimensions pretty much on everything, like the fenders, the tour pack, the trunk in the back, but you know, you don't have some of the technology as well. So I will say in the 2019 model year, Harley-Davidson really revamped some mechanical aspects of this bike, which I'm going to get into in a second. But everything from like the brakes to what they call the RDRS, the Reflex Defensive Rider System, that this bike did not have any of that stuff. So they have grown kind of leaps and bounds as far as just the chassis and the controls and everything. Here's an inside shot of the fairing here. You've got the Boom Audio GT system. Again, not bad, but not as good as the new GTS system. And you know, just everything's kind of plain Jane. The stereo I'll mention as well on the CVO is the Boom Audio Stage 1. So you've got, you know, the upgraded speakers, you've got, you know, the upgraded amp and everything as well. Not to be mistaken with the Boom Audio Stage 2, like what comes on the CVO Road Glide and Street Glide, but you know, still a really good system. So the last bike that I wanted to compare the CVO Tri-Glide to was the Freewheeler, and I feel like the Freewheeler is a bike that gets forgotten about sometimes, and it's very much alive and in the Harley-Davidson Trike lineup. The Freewheeler is kind of your stripped down version of the Tri-Glide. It was first introduced in the 2015 model year. There was a bike right after the Trike was first introduced in 2009. There was a bike called the Street Glide Trike that ran for 2 years in 2010 and 2011 that I don't think sold very good, so Harley-Davidson ditched it. It was basically a batwing fairing bike without the trunk, and so there wasn't enough to differentiate it from the Tri-Glide, I feel like, and so Harley-Davidson got rid of it. But the Freewheeler definitely has more sportier aspects to it. You got kind of the bobbed fenders back there, you have more tire exposed, more of a low profile seat to it. Obviously no front fairing on there. It has kind of something that resembles a Road King front end on it, and the controls and everything, you know, very much, you know, look like a Road King. But it's got a lot of the same electronics. You got the RDRS on it as well. The windshield actually does not come on this bike. We have it installed on this one, but you can see there you got your traction control and your cruise control and all that good stuff on it. But yeah, the Freewheeler, you're gonna save quite a bit of money off of a Tri-Glide as well. The Freewheeler, you're looking in the upper 20s. I think they're like 27.9 for the Freewheeler. We're gonna take it out and we're gonna kind of compare it to the CVO Tri-Glide. So I want to cut for a minute to a shot and video footage that I took at the 2019 dealer announcement meeting. They made a lot of changes to the Trike platform in the 2019 model year, and I spent a lot of time with the engineer kind of going over everything that they changed. So let me run down some of that stuff with you real quick. So first off, in the front end, they went to a dual bending valve front suspension for the forks. That was a change that they applied to the 2017 two-wheel touring family. So now you have it on the Tri-Glide. Definitely a lot more plush shock that kind of caters to exactly the type of impacts you're experiencing up front. So I'm going to go over a question I get asked a lot about the Trike, guys. A lot of people ask me if it has independent left and right suspension, and the answer is no. This is a straight axle setup with a differential. I get asked a lot about that. So less parts, more of that real go-kart feeling. This here is a knob here that adjusts the preload in the shocks. The shocks are no longer an air shock. You've got an emulsion style shock in the rear, which is a lot better. The knob adjusts both sides of the suspension, by the way, as opposed to just one side like the air shocks of old were. So definitely a big upgrade there. A lot of times I ask, okay, well, what kind of made you go to, a straight axle? And the answer I get from the engineers most of the time is just that you have, really go-kart style handling on these things as opposed to kind of the sleepy handling of independent suspension. And it's also less parts. I mean, these tail ends here are, pretty much bulletproof, less moving parts, and so more heavy duty and more resilient as well. You've got upgraded brakes as well. They went to Brembo brakes this year on the Trikes, which a lot of people might be saying, well, I thought they already had Brembo brakes. On the two-wheel vehicles, they've had Brembo brakes for over a decade now, but they just applied them to the Tri-Glide now. You have electronically linked ABS now, and so before you had hydraulically linked braking with no ABS before the 19 model year. Then just last year they went to ABS, which is huge. And you also have the RDRS, which last year they weren't even calling it the RDRS, which is the Reflex Defensive Rider System that many of you are aware of now, which is basically your traction control, your drag torque slip control, and your cornering enhanced ABS. So a lot more rider assist electronics on this bike now. The engineers is kind of pointing out too that they changed like the brake master cylinders on this bike as well. This is your brake controller here. So this is the rear brake switch that he's pointing out here that can sense and measure the pressure that you're applying to the brakes and tailor your traction control, based on the pressure there and the control module. So yeah, a lot more electronics on this bike now. The braking is a lot better, and obviously the addition of the traction control, your riding and safety is a lot better on these Trikes now as well. One guy commented to me recently too about the RDRS. He was skeptical. He said he was buying a two-wheel bike and he was a little bit skeptical about buying the RDRS on the first year. And I said, well, believe it or not, RDRS actually came out last year on the Trikes, and so they were applying it to a smaller sample, a smaller pool of motorcycles, or I should say Trikes out there. And I feel like they kind of did that on purpose to maybe flesh out if there were any problems, which by the way, I haven't heard of any problems on the RDRS. This here is the IMU, the inertia measurement unit. So this is what's going to measure your left and right, basically lateral acceleration. And so based on that measurement and those calculations are going to be applied to your traction control, and the system is going to make adjustments according to that. So basically in a nutshell, you've got the RDRS now. You have better suspension both front and rear, and you have better brakes on these bikes, which is a very significant upgrade on these Trikes as well. And he's also mentioning you got the 114. Since 2009, when Harley-Davidson first started selling the Tri-Glide, I've seen a whole bunch of different riders purchase these. I think oftentimes we pigeonhole certain types of riders into the ideal buyer for a Tri-Glide, and usually it's someone with like a physical ailment. Maybe they're getting older, maybe they don't have the strength to ride anymore, and those types of riders certainly buy the Trike, but it's actually a lot broader than that. And I think a lot of times people think, well, if you're on a Trike, that's because you don't have the physical capabilities of riding a two-wheeler anymore, and that actually couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of Trike clubs out there that, you know, they just enjoy the look and the function of a three-wheeler and just kind of the novelty of it all, because really there aren't that many Trike or three-wheel vehicles out on the road. So you're kind of putting yourself in a very small group of people that ride these bikes, and so once again it's kind of a novel thing. But you know, certainly I do sell and see a lot of people riding that for whatever reason aren't comfortable riding a two-wheeler anymore, and so that would be one type of rider. I've seen guys whose wives just feel more comfortable on the back of a three-wheeler, more stable, and they're just more confident in it for whatever reason. Some guys just like the storage of it. I've had guys buy it because they want to ride a Harley, but they don't have a whole lot of experience riding two-wheelers, and they're kind of starting late in the game, and they just don't have a whole lot of confidence in their abilities anymore, and so they just want to have the Harley-Davidson experience, and so they get the Trike, which, by the way, the Tri-Glide definitely delivers the Harley-Davidson feeling, the character, the engineering of the bike, kind of the beauty, that simplistic style and aesthetic, yet real premium nature to it. You definitely get all those aspects out of a Tri-Glide. The turning is completely different. Going in a straight line, you know, shifting the gears, running the engine up, all that is very much the same as a two-wheeler, and you definitely feel like you're on a Harley-Davidson. I've ridden other three-wheel vehicles like, you know, the Spider and some of those other ones out there that are more of a sport bike feeling, because the engine is, you know, your water cooled, higher revving motor, but this is still that low end torquey grunt, and so you don't lose any of that. That all translates directly over on the Tri-Glide. But you know, going through turns, there is absolutely no leaning at all. On a two-wheel vehicle, when you lean over, the inertia of the turn pushes you further into the seat. On these, the first time I remember I turned this, you've got kind of that centrifugal force, or the inertia that is moving your body the opposite side of you know, the outside of the turn, which at first it's kind of unnerving a little bit, because it's almost like the Trike wants to, you know, throw you off the seat or something like that. But you know, quickly as you ride it more and more, and it's like a really fun feeling. It's almost like you want to go through the turns, you know, faster and faster and faster. And you know, maybe you get over that after you own these, but whenever I get on one of these bikes, it's like you just want to like steer it and, you know, go through the turns really quickly, and you know, kind of have that go-kart feeling like I mentioned before. But so the steering is very much different, where you're not counter steering anymore. You're directly steering in the direction of the turn that you want to make. And so for that reason, I get sometimes people asking me, well, is it fatiguing? And yeah, you know, I think if you get on like a switchback road where you're doing a lot of turning, especially sharp turns, yeah, your upper body could get fatigued. And so, you know, maybe limit that at first if you're not really sure about your abilities and I guess your stamina. But for the most part, most roads, you're going to be perfectly fine, and it's really not a fatiguing bike to ride at all. So to kind of compare the two models a little bit, so you know, out on the freeway, obviously a lot of the same principles apply. You know, the fairing is really good for wind deflection. The windshield's decent, but if you're going to be going out on longer trips and doing a lot of highway mileage, I definitely recommend doing the Tri-Glide. And then there's the obvious stuff as well with the storage capacity. The 117 on the CVO specifically is pretty dang fun. It's definitely the most powerful engine I've ridden on a Tri-Glide. So today was the first time I've ever ridden a CVO with a 117. It definitely has more giddy up than like your 107 and your 114 that I've ridden in the past. The seat comfort is awesome. You know, one thing, guys, if you're ever wanting to get a little bit more long road trip seat comfort, a rider backrest is the single best thing that you can invest in. You know, a more comfortable, more padded seat is good, but a rider backrest, just be able to rest your lower torso against that makes a big difference in just kind of your overall torso fatigue as you're riding down the road. Also helps out your back too. People that have lower back issues and things like that, the rider backrest makes a huge difference. So if you want the maximum, comfort, go for that rider backrest, which by the way, the CVO does come with it. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. I think a common question that people ask themselves as well is, okay, well, am I going to get the regular Tri-Glide, or do I want to pony up and get the CVO? And really, what am I getting for my money? So I'll break that down real quick for you. So yeah, you are paying an extra, like $13,000-$14,000 for the CVO. So my personal opinion, I wouldn't do it just for the engine upgrade alone. The difference between the 114 and the 117 isn't worth the $13,000-$14,000. Really, if you want the things like the heated grips, the heated seats, if you know you're going to get the wireless headset with the WIM in there, which is the wireless headset interface module, and if you like the cosmetics, if you like the wheels, if you like the fancy paint, then once you add all those things up, it's certainly worth getting the CVO. And the cherry on top is kind of the exclusivity. So if you're going to get a lot of that stuff anyways and spend the money and get that installed, you're better off just getting the CVO. From a value standpoint as well, that stuff coming from the factory on the CVO is going to hold its value a lot better than if you install that stuff on the bike after the fact. So I'll break it down like this. Who do I recommend the CVO Tri-Glide for? Well, people that want a trike in the first place. So who do I recommend a trike for in the first place? I would definitely recommend test riding one before you buy one, because they do handle quite a bit different than a two-wheel motorcycle. They're fun though. I will say that the first time I ever rode one, I had a lot of fun on it. And I don't know if it was just the novelty of it. I'm certainly not ready to try to trade in my two-wheeler at this point. You can't split lanes on this thing very well. But the guys out there that want to try something different, want the novelty of a three-wheeler, or if you've been riding Harleys your whole life and for whatever reason you physically can't ride a two-wheeler anymore, the Tri-Glide is a great alternative. So then you ask yourself, okay, well, do I get the Tri-Glide or do I get the CVO Tri-Glide? At that point, like I mentioned, it's just a matter of if you value the cosmetic appeal of the CVO, the exclusivity of the CVO, and some of those other things that you get on it, namely the heated grips, the heated seat, the upgraded sound system, the wireless headset, the extra bags, the covers that come with it, the passenger adjustable floorboards, the rider backrest, the more comfortable seat. It really does add up, guys. Everything from the cosmetics on the floorboards and the grips, the Kahuna collection. If you value all that stuff, then I would say go for the CVO. As far as just pure riding, they both have the RDRS, the same chassis. The engine upgrade to the 117 isn't real significant. So if you just really want the core rider without the frills and some of those extra bells and whistles, if you can do without them, then just go with the regular Tri-Glide. Like I said, test ride it first. The more you ride it, the more you get used to it and the more fun it becomes. When you first get on it, it's funny, like you feel like it's a little bit sketch, but you get used to it really, really quick, and there's really no learning curve hardly to ride these things. A lot of people, ask me, okay, is it hard to ride? How do you ride it? If you know how to ride a two-wheel Harley-Davidson, you're going to jump right on these things and you're going to be able to ride it no problem. Really, the only bad habit that people may have when they first start on it is they're going to have kind of that instinct to drop their feet down to the ground when they come to a stop, and you have to kind of mentally get over that, where you just keep your feet on the floorboards. It doesn't take very long, but that's something that I see people kind of making the mistake of having the tendency to put their feet down, which isn't really a big deal. I think the CVO Tri-Glide was a cool vehicle to come out with. I definitely was not expecting it. I think this is obviously a real niche bike. Trikes we probably sell maybe one every 2 months or so, and now you're kind of pigeonholing this bike into even a narrower category because of the price point. I hope Harley-Davidson doesn't produce a ton of these and run this for 2-3 years. I would assume they're going to run it for at least 2 years just because of all the R&D and everything that went into making a vehicle like this. But I personally just hope that they don't produce a whole lot of them, because this is a market that could get saturated very quickly with too many of these bikes in the pool. Anyways, guys, let me know what your opinion is down below. Especially I want to hear from you trike riders. Do you trike riders feel like the CVO is appealing even at this high of a price point? Is it something that you've been wanting? Is it something you've been asking for? Or is it something that you wouldn't spend the extra money for? I want to know your guys' opinion. If you guys are looking for a trike or any other Harley-Davidson in the Southern California area, be sure to hit us up at Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe as well if you haven't hit that subscribe button. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.